Welcome to the Travel Winds Podcast. My guest today is Justin Biltonen. He is a country music singer-songwriter in addition to his bass playing days with the band Three Doors Down. He's based in Nashville now after being born and raised in North Carolina. I'm excited to talk to Justin about his touring as a solo artist now, as well as his time traveling the world with Three Doors Down. How are you today, Justin?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. I appreciate the time.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you having me.
No, absolutely. I was just kind of curious, with how much touring did you do pre-COVID, and then what kind of touring did you get done through 2020?
Between Three Doors and my solo stuff, I was on the road a lot pre-COVID. The Three Doors stuff was kind of slowing down because we hit it big for the 20th anniversary tour in 2020, which was supposed to happen like right when everything shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
And all that got canceled. I was filling in, like, if I wasn't on the road with Three Doors, I was on the road myself, playing all over the place. So once everything shut down, the Three Doors stuff was all with Live Nation, so it was much bigger productions, and that got canceled. But I think around July, I got to play a couple shows on my own, and then a couple more in August. And then in December, I was down in Texas for about 11 days, playing different stuff for NFR and some solo shows. So that was good. Definitely not as much as I was feeling. But
That was the first NFR I missed in 11 years.
Oh, wow. It was a good one.
Yeah, well, they usually put it in Vegas. It's a real easy. I run the Mandalay Bay booth over there. But when they reset up in Dallas and Fort Worth, we didn't set up the booth and didn't make it happen this year. It was kind of weird. You know, it's one of those things like you always, you kind of complain about having to go to Vegas for 16 straight days and working every day of it. But then when it doesn't happen, you go, kind of miss it.
Yeah. Had a lot of friends and stuff for SHOT Show, and they kind of see the same thing.
Well, I remember when the COVID first started happening, I was like, hey, tell my wife I got to be home for a few weeks. She's like, oh, great. 9 months, 10 months later, we're like, hey, you getting it back on the road or what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's one thing I've with a lot of the business travelers I talk to, and I don't know if you would be the same way. It's like you travel so much, and then you wish you had a little bit of time off, and then when you get the time off, you're kind of like, man, I want to go back on the road.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself missing it, or was it a good break for you?
I miss it a lot. Taking a little bit of break was great. Just kind of had to restructure stuff, and I'm definitely ready to get back out on the road, especially with some of the Three Doors stuff we had planned was like Europe, and we had a bunch of cool places all over the world that we were going to go to, and that would have been a lot of fun. But as for my solo stuff, I miss getting to as many places as I was getting, which was really building. Everything was getting exciting, and just kind of had to restructure and start doing live streams and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's interesting because I was going to ask you, like, with Three Doors, you've done global tours and everything. What's your favorite place you've visited so far?
Japan's really cool, and then really love Germany. Spent a lot of time in Germany. The band does really well there. So whenever we play in Europe, we usually end up spending at least like 2 weeks playing like all the major cities in Germany.
And is that where you're hoping to go back to?
Yeah. Hopefully when, everything kind of gets back to normal or whatever they want to call it, we'll get back over there and do the Europe leg of the tour that we've been working on.
Well, I was going to ask you too, is when you set up these kind of big tours, do they give you time to go around and see the cities and all that, or is it pretty much just you're hitting and going and hitting and moving?
Sometimes it kind of varies. Usually we get a day, at least a day in the cities, especially if it's someplace that's kind of cool. Like I know we had Prague and Budapest, I think, on the schedule for the Europe leg last year. They all got canceled, but both of those were going to have a day or two off because it was cool places that the band wanted to spend some time in. So I think sometimes it gets structured, sometimes we get lucky. Sometimes we just make the best of it and kind of run around and see everything before the show.
Gotcha. How do you, because you're doing some driving and then obviously some flying, how do you kill the downtime? Are you just working on new songs? Are you, reading, watching movies? How do you fill up all the dead hours?
If we got a day off somewhere, I'm out trying to find something cool to see. I don't like sitting around. I've never been a couch potato, so
yeah.
If we're in somewhere that I've never been, I'm finding something cool, either going out and finding local beer, or finding local history stuff, or hiking, or getting out and just going to a gym just to get away from everything for a minute. I do that quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I don't like going to the movies. I never did, even when they were open. So I spend a lot of time just kind of sightseeing.
Well, for me, like I find myself, like if I had to go back to Nashville again, I always look for something I hadn't seen before. I mean, obviously I'm going to go down Broadway and do all that, but like this last trip, we hit the Grand Ole Opry and did the behind the scenes tour, and just always trying to do
Very
things
cool.
do things that you wouldn't typically do. I mean,
Yeah.
Like going to Louisville. Have you ever been to Louisville to the Bat Company?
Yeah, did that a couple of years ago. Went through the whole the museum of it and building, and went into the place where they kept all the prototype bats for all the different players, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I hit the batting cages when I went there. So,
oh yeah,
just all the kind of cool stuff. What's the biggest?
If you look for it at all, you can find something cool in everything.
Well, I think so. Like I have a buddy that he's big into craft beers, so he put an app, and he travels. Man, he's on the road 2 weeks a month, but he put an app on his phone that has all the craft breweries. So when he goes to Chicago, he goes to the app and it'll pull up all the craft breweries, and then he has check marks with all the places he's been to, so he can go try new
That's
beers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get that.
Exactly. I think people that travel I don't know, you got to fill time, right? Just sitting on an airplane for 12 hours sucks.
Yeah. It's all, it's just a mindset too, and keeps you positive while you're out traveling. You make it kind of an adventure instead of like something that you have to do. It's like something that you get to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just a different mindset for it.
Exactly. Well, you got a really cool story. I mean, I mentioned in the intro that you're the bass player for Three Doors Down, but you're not a bass player, or you are now, I guess. But I think that's really interesting for other musicians to hear that. If you got a second to talk about how you became a bass player for Three Doors Down.
Yeah, I always kind of approached my music career wide open to possibilities and opportunities, and it's the advice that I always try to give people if they ask me, what they should do when they're getting into business. Get your craft and your skills and best to your ability that you can with practice and all that good stuff, and then just be open to whatever opportunities come up, and also just be good to people. And it's kind of a combination of that stuff. And I knew the guys for years, and I was always in Nashville working on stuff, hustling, trying to the right songs and, favoring whatever band I was doing, and kind of right place at the right time. It was through, friendships and relationships in the business that I'd kind of cultivated over the years.
Sure.
And that's kind of the short version of it. But, the band needed a bass player very suddenly, and they asked me to give it a shot. So I jumped into it best I could, and still learning every day with different aspects. But
well, and kind of going along with that is I've noticed you have Sacred West Trading Company, and you've definitely tried to branch out and do what you need to stay a musician.
Yeah.
You got the Patreon, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on.
I think all that are just kind of different tools for different things, and different outlets for creativity. I think it's really easy to kind of get stuck in a mindset of you have to do this one particular thing, and it's make or break by the time you're a certain age, and then you got to get a real job or something. I just always thought that was the wrong way to look at the business, and the wrong way to look at anything you're working on. It doesn't even have to be music. You can have other interests. You can have a lot of things you're working on, and I just always kind of had my creative passions in a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, you got
sometimes it's successful, and then other times it's something you just got to keep working on and building, and it all kind of goes hand in hand at some point.
Yeah, you just got to keep hustling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you. I know you've got your new single out, Wild Mustangs, or is it just about to come out? Because I know I'd listen to it.
Yeah, it's been out for a little while. I think I put it out right before the holidays, and really kicked off promoting it and stuff after the holidays.
How frustrating is it? You released the Worth Hanging On To last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put all that work into it, and then you can't go out and promote it as much as you'd like. Is that
Yeah,
frustrating?
some of it was because you want to get in front of people. But I guess it's that mindset thing again, too.
Sure.
You really want to do it, you really believe in it. You just kind of pivot and find another way to do it. It's really easy to just kind of hang it up and, give up whenever you meet some adversity. But especially when everything first shut down, I was playing more than I had in years because I was doing 3, 4, 5 live streams every week and sitting and playing for 2 or 3 hours for, live stream on Facebook and takeovers on other Instagram pages or something. So I found ways to promote the song that were somewhat unconventional, but now I think they're just going to be, staple tools for artists to use, like these live streams and different things going on. So, yeah, I think it was just, thinking outside of the box for a couple different things, and it worked.
Yeah. You said it's unconventional. It's kind of alt-rocky, but,
yeah.
But, like some of your other songs, I mean, you got mandolins in them, you got fiddles. You're definitely doing chord country as well.
Yeah. It's kind of just been my sound is like a mix of all the stuff that I grew up on and kind of music that I love to listen to and play. And
yeah.
I try to keep all those different elements in the song and, keep up the feel and whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah. Well, I think, as a solo artist, you get to do whatever you want. And if it makes you happy to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I deal with my podcast. I've had people tell me, oh, you should focus on, just athletes, or you should just focus on business people. But I don't want to just talk to those people. I want to talk to everybody. So.
If you have a good feeling about what you're doing and you're passionate about it, then I personally don't think you should listen to anybody.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Well,
I appreciate the time you've given me today. What do you have coming up, and what's the best way for my listeners to follow you and see what you got coming up?
Best way, JustinBiltonen.com. It's a pretty easy one because everything's linked off of you. And then you can go to Justin Three Doors Down on Instagram. That's probably the most active social media thing that I have. But you can find all that stuff just through JustinBiltonen.com or from Instagram. But playing Friday in Carmel, Indiana at Rockaway Club. And then probably doing some live streams, working on a new single. Hopefully I'll have out in a couple weeks. Until then, still pushing Wild Mustangs, which is doing well at Texas Radio. It's in the top 75 on the Texas Regional Radio chart, which is exciting.
Do you have any plans to hit some rodeos this summer?
I hope so, yeah. It seems like those have been opening up and trying to get on some and play and then go see some because they'll do it.
Yeah, I know.
So even if I'm not playing, maybe I can get out and see some rodeo.
I'm hearing about some rodeos here in California just getting rescheduled, going from like July to September or August into October, because I know all the Cowboys need to get their points up to get into NFR again. So
yeah, definitely. I think they'll be able to get all the rodeos in and get the points up. And if they did it for whatever capacity of last year, I think it'll just be back stronger. So people will work around it.
Yeah, well, it just feeds the whole country and the Western industries,
Yeah.
A lot of the mid-states fairs and all that, they, obviously they have music guests and Cheyenne Frontier Days. They have all the musical guests as well as the shopping and then as well as the rodeo. So, I mean, and it was a huge income loss for the Western industry last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully we'll get it back.
I think we will. Sure.
We're definitely on our way. Absolutely. I'll make sure to put all your links on my website as well, so my listeners can just click a link and hook up to your Instagram or your website.
Very cool. I appreciate that.
No, and like I said, I really appreciate the time tonight.
Oh, no problem.
When I get back over to Nashville or maybe at NFR, I'll try and run into you.
Yeah. I'll have any time.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate the time.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Justin. Have a good night, bud.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.